Hi, Mr. Wright here, and welcome to this film in which I'll take you through my predictions for the Edexcel IGCSE Maths exams in summer 2025. Now, what I've done to compose these predictions and to try to make them as accurate as possible for you is I have combed through the last 16 IGCSE papers and I have tallied up all the topics that have come up and which topics have come up when. And this has enabled me to provide what I hope will be dead accurate predictions for you to use as you prepare for your Edexcel Maths exams in summer 2025. Now, let's have a look at the predictions. So my predictions come in three different categories. The first category of topics that we're looking at are those that come up between 45 and 55-ish% of the time. You see these numbers in the middle column here in the yellow column. Well, that is the percentage of papers on which these topics have come up. So, for example, finding the mean from group data, which is bottom of the list here, that comes up on 45% of the past papers. So given that you are going to take two exam papers when you sit your exams in summer 2025, I am expecting finding the mean from group data to be on one of those two papers. And indeed, all of these topics here, which appear on about 50%, about half of the past papers, I'm thinking they will come up on one of your two papers. Now let's just have a quick flip through and remind ourselves what these topics are and what the words mean. So finding the mean from group data, you're going to use mid-mad there, I suspect, and you will need to practice that so you can do it fluently so that when the question comes up, you can solve it without thinking about it. Proportion. That's when two variables are in direct proportion or inverse proportion. You probably will say to yourself, fish sign equals find k, use k. Algebraic fractions, you'll need to be at ease with operations with algebraic fractions. Using the product of prime factors, that would include finding the products of prime factors and using prime factors to find highest common factors, lowest common multiples, that sort of thing. For operations with mixed numbers, there's something that you can practice and get right on the day. Quadratic equations, set them equal to 0 and factorize, or use the formula perhaps, or perhaps even complete the square. Quadratic graphs, using Pythagoras' theorem. Problems involving ratio. Problems involving the areas of triangles, trapezium, compound shapes. Using the sine rule, the cosine rule, and the sine formula for the area of a triangle. Surds, especially rationalizing the denominator, of course, as well as more routine operations simplifying surds. Cumulative frequency, filling in tables, plotting cumulative frequency graphs, using cumulative frequency graphs to find medians and to find interquartile ranges. Linear graphical inequalities, that's when you plot a line, you draw a line, perhaps y equals 2x plus 4, and you need to identify the points for which y is greater than 2x plus 4, for example. Standard form, writing numbers in standard form, writing numbers which are given to you in standard form as ordinary numbers, and operations with numbers in standard form. Problems involving similar shapes, perhaps involving volume or surface area. Circle theorems, transforming graphs, vectors. Vectors is a biggie. And vectors is one of those topics that you will want to get right if you are going for a top grade. Rearranging formula, and again, if you're going for a top grade, you'll need to be used to completing the square there. And differentiation, again, that's a question which appears towards the end of the paper. That's where you are finding gradients perhaps, or perhaps you are looking at distance, velocity, and acceleration. Now, before we move on to the next set of questions, let's just identify which of these topics you will want to focus on if you are going for a top grade. Really, those four there. Circle theorems often comes up towards the end of the paper, as does similar shapes. So those topics there, those 6 topics are a must if you're going for a top grade. Surds, sine rule and cosine rule. If you're going for a top grade, I should think that those are the ones to focus on along with proportion. Now, if you're going for a grade 4 or 5, which topics are more accessible that regularly come up? Quadratic equations, Pythagoras, ratio, area problems, cumulative frequency, 4 operations with mixed numbers using the product of primes, standard form. Those would be the topics I'd be choosing from this list. Now, many of these topics have a playlist you can see on the right-hand side, so you can download this document, use the link in the description to download this document, and then you can click on the links and you can access my playlists on all of these topics. Right, let's have a look at the second group of questions, the second group of topics. Now, these are topics which appear in blue there, their percentages in blue, and they are topics which come up on 63% of the papers all the way up to almost every paper. Look at that, trigonometry in 2D and 3D comes up basically on every paper, every past paper. So you would expect probably a question on trigonometry to be on both of the papers that you'll face in the summer. Definitely on one of them. Okay, so let's have a look from the bottom of the list. Venn diagrams. You know what those are, and there's a playlist to help you. Sequences. Now, sequences is a good banker topic if you're going for a grade 4, 5 or 6, and if you're going for a top grade, then you'll want to be used to using the sum of a sequence formula. Functions, polygons, cones, pyramids and spheres, bounds, histograms, simultaneous equations. Problems involving circumference and area of circles, mean, median, range and interquartile range problems, factorizing quadratics, linear equations, expanding brackets, and trig in 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions. Now, which of those are topics for you to crack if you're going for a top grade? Sequences, as I've explained, the top end of that. Functions is a top grade topic very often. Bounds, histograms, simultaneous equations, the quadratic ones. So simultaneous equations when you have a pair of equations and one of them's quadratic. That's often a grade 7, 8, 9 question. Sometimes more advanced problems involving circles. And probably 3D trig, I would say that those are the topics to crack from this list if you are going for a top grade. If you're going for a grade 4, 5 or 6, which of these topics come up often? Well, they all come up often, but which ones are more accessible? I would think sequences, writing formulas for the nth term, using the formulas of nth terms, polygons, remember your formula for working out the sum of the interior angles of a polygon, simultaneous equations, especially when both of them are linear, mean, median, mode and range questions, factorizing quadratics, linear equations, expanding brackets and 2D trig. Those would be the topics from this list that I'd be focusing on if I was going for a grade 4, 5 or 6. Right, let's look at the last set of topics. Here they are. Now, there are 4 topics that come up on average more than once on every paper. Okay, so these are topics which you really need to get your head around because they come up more than once on each paper on average. Coordinate geometry, what do I mean by that? I mean finding the equation of a line given a point on the line and its gradient. I mean finding the equations of perpendicular bisectors, remembering that the gradients of 2 perpendicular lines, one of them is the negative reciprocal of the other. I mean all those questions that involve coordinates and points and the distance between points and the gradients between points. Indices and powers. Now, at an accessible level, we're just using the rules of indices, and at a higher level, we're writing all the numbers in a problem in the same base, perhaps as 2 to the power of something or 3 to the power of something. Probability. Many different levels of questions on probability. Have a look at the probability playlist and that will take you through them. But the harder questions on probability, those grade 9 questions, rely on you being able to set up an equation and solve it. And percentages. Percentages comes up more than any other topic. And again, you will find the percentages playlist useful there. So what do I suggest you do next? Well, 2 things. First of all, click the link in the description and you can download this document with all the playlist links. And secondly, these top topics here, blue and green, those topics which come up about 2/3 of the time or more, I will put a link on the film here now, which takes you to a film in which I run through past exam questions on each of those topics. For each topic, I do an easy question and a hard question. And if you click into the film and look at the description, you can download the questions by clicking the link in the description. Then you can have a go at the questions and then watch my solutions film for those past exam questions on all of those topics there with a blue or a green. If you found this film useful, please hit like and tell me so. Please spread the word. Please tell other people of these predictions so that everyone can together do as well as they possibly can on their Edexcel IGCSE Maths this summer. Thanks for watching. See you in the next film.